Hi there, and welcome everyone to this Beyond the Headlines event where we're talking about the Bright Spot series the Education Lab just launched, along with our new interactive dashboard that looks at the performance of every single school and school district in the entire state. We created it with parents and teachers in mind. Just an easy to use tool if you want to see which districts have the highest rates of teacher retention, teacher salary, for parents, like different academic scores, or even just whether the kids are happy at school there. Please visit our website and click on it and play around there. We love new visitors. For today, I'm here. I'm joined by Maura Turcotte. Do you want to introduce yourself, Maura?
Yeah, my name is Maura Turcotte, and I've been a part of Post and Career since last December, so nearly a year, so just a short few months that, and I am based in Charleston, but along with my teammate Sarah Gregory, I'm one of two reporters who has like a statewide focus in the team. So, I'm looking at schools and issues across South Carolina.
Perfect. And here's T. Michael.
Hi, everyone. My name is T. Michael Body. I am an education reporter based in Columbia for the Post and Courier. I cover several school districts in the Columbia area in Richland and Lexington counties. When education issues are prevalent to the whole of the state, that's when I am usually able to come in and work some with Hillary, some with Maura, and do some education lab type stuff. But mostly I am based in Columbia and cover 5 school districts in that area.
Perfect. And I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Hillary Flynn. I'm the Education Lab editor. You usually find me reading my amazing reporters' education stories or hunting around the office for free snacks, one or the other, go in between. But today we want to again discuss our Bright Spots series. So the Bright Spots was created because there is a lot of negativity surrounding K through 12 public education in South Carolina, and we are ranked very low in state rankings across the country for education. But something we realized as our just 1 year long, it's been 1 year since our launch, something we realized during that time was there are these pockets of the state that are doing very well. Even if a school is not the best performing school, in all respects, it might be doing something great, like with regards to its graduation rate or reading scores or teacher retention or arts and culture offerings. So we recently published 4 stories that highlight different schools and school districts that have these bright spots, and wrote them in a way that where we show how they can be easily emulated by other schools and districts all across the state. And we plan on following this series up with another bright spot series each quarter. So there will be another one out before the end of this year. I bet everyone can't wait. So just to start out with, Maura, do you want to talk a bit about, just give a brief summary of your piece, and then we can launch into all my questions about it.
Yeah, definitely. So I reported about this performing arts program at Meeting Street Academy in Charleston and Meeting Street School at Brentwood in North Charleston. The program is called Watoto Academy of Performing Arts, and it's led by this director named Donald O'Connor. And it's this program, it's like a class at the Watoto, at the schools that, at some point, every student has that class, but it's also this after school program. And, through those hours, students all participate in a production each year. And it has a very unique take where, typically Donald, he is, focusing on a specific event in history or a certain era in history, and is, bringing students back into that era through dances and costumes and everything. And his main aim with it is to kind of like teach students certain like lessons about humanity. For example, a few years ago, he had a production that was kind of focused on early 20th century, 1910s, 1920s. And so there were aspects of like the Harlem Renaissance and jazz. But also, he was talking to the students about the Great Migration and whatnot, and what that meant to people and why people were, moving such great distances and everything. So it has a, very unique approach. And so I was looking at that and the impact on the students.
Perfect. And why do you think programs like this are so important, like nowadays?
Yeah, so well, when I first heard about these schools and this program, I was told, these are schools that mostly serve Black students, and these programs, they are, pulling from African and African American cultures, which was immediately like caught my eye. I think it's pretty well documented that most schools that like from English classes to drama to if you have like opportunities for dance, like you're almost always pulling from white American and European sources. And so something that wasn't doing that is immediately, kind of going against that grain and everything. And, I think for any person, group, community, it's important to see like yourself represented in some way and know that like your identity is tied to, a rich history. And also just, I think in general too, like the performing arts is such a great way to, instill, especially at a young age, teach young kids how to conduct themselves, how to present themselves. And the fact that they're able to learn those lessons while also like learning about their own culture and own history, I think is, really, really important.
So can you talk a bit about just your reporting experience, especially you're dealing with like very young kids here. Like how did you ingrain yourself into the elementary school community? Did you give them free snacks? Like you could have done to ingrain yourself with anyone could do to ingrain yourself with me.
Thankfully, didn't have to bribe them with free snacks. So, I started out this reporting process just speaking with like the administrators just to get a sense of like what this program was and its goals. But it became clear to me, and this is true of most reporting, like you really just need to kind of be there. And so I attended a rehearsal for this program for ahead of their big production that was last January. And I just sat with them for a Saturday. It was like in a gym in North Charleston, and like there wasn't a whole lot of space for me to just stand anywhere. So I was just sitting in the bleachers with a bunch of other, like young students and watching them as they, had a full day of rehearsal and whatnot. And it was just fun to watch because, I had heard, the director talk about how professional the students act during, rehearsals and practices. But it's like very different to see that. And it's like, like while I was sitting around the students, you would occasionally hear giggles and everything, but like as I seen them rehearse, like they really came across as like real professionals, even though they were like, 7, 8-year-olds. And so, that was just such a, great benefit to be able to report in person like that. And it was just, funny to see, they had like a lunch break and suddenly it's like, snap, they're back to being like, regular 7 and 8-year-olds who are like running around throwing hula hoops and whatnot. And then, I got to chat with them, the students as they, were sitting around eating their lunch and everything. And they were all super bubbly and excited to talk to me because it seems like they all really enjoy this program.
Absolutely. And it sounds like a really fun story to write about. Can you talk about what your favorite reporting moment was?
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, I really loved being there at the rehearsal, but I think I loved even more. I watched the like final production of it. They held it at the Dock Street Theater in downtown Charleston. And, it was fun just being around, like all their family members were there. And, just seeing the excitement of like the family members, like seeing their like kids on stage, and like just how proud you could see they were. And like, you know, it was funny, like you would see like someone's catch like their child on stage and they'd like throw up their phone and like their child would move again, they throw up their phone. Like they were so eager to like capture every moment of their kids. And then like, you know, I spoke to a few families afterwards, and just like the connections it had between like some of the older family members and, you know, some of these younger kids, because, you know, the younger kids were maybe performing songs from, you know, decades ago, and, you know, it kind of helped build these connections and whatnot. And so, yeah, just kind of being in that public space, especially after, you know, a few years of the pandemic where we were all like kind of remote and everything, just to be around that energy again was really, really fun.
So most important question, get prepared. Maura, did you learn how to dance?
I personally did not learn how to dance. I was so impressed though by these students. I guess
We're
you know,
right
that's
there.
part two. Yeah.
Oh, well, still really good work. So, T. Michael, do you want to give us a little bit of background on your piece?
Yeah. Mine was focused on an elementary school in Columbia called Carver Lyon Elementary School. It's part of the Richland 1 school district, and not quite as fun as a performing arts program, in my opinion. But for those of us who are big into reading, this was a really fun story because the students at Carver Lyon were like the rest of the schools in this series. This is a school that's in a very historic but historically Black and historically impoverished neighborhood in Columbia, and the students had really low test scores, but over the last few years, including through the pandemic, the teachers were able to boost those test scores up, not just above the district average, but above the state's expectations for this school and for the district. And so my focus was how they were able to do this. I wish that I was able to develop something of a relationship with the actual kids, like Maura was able to. But unfortunately, I started working on this story like right as school had gotten out. And so what I did instead was develop a relationship with the teachers. When I first went to the school, I tried to work out a time where everybody was kind of on a break, not necessarily like during their lunch, but I wanted at least 5 or 6 people in a room, in a conference room with me, and we could just sit down and I could have everybody tell me at least one time they remembered or at least one thing they remembered doing that helped one or all of their students in some way. And what we found was there were two main things. One was these teachers were giving their students the freedom of choice when it came to the literature and the text that they were wanting to read. You know, every kid is not going to be into everything that's being assigned, and so how do we move away from that? What is this student telling me about his own life? Is he really into science? Is he really into comic books? Is he really into football or something like that? Let's find text, let's find literature that relates to these students' interests. And that was one thing. The other thing, again, this is a mostly Black school. I think about 95% of the students are Black. That doesn't make all these students a monolith, right? There are different dialects being spoken in the classroom, not just here at Carver Lyon, but pretty much anywhere in South Carolina. The main teacher that I spoke to, she had taught in Beaufort County and in Greenville County, and she was used to teaching students with Gullah Geechee dialects, things like that. And so aside from the freedom of choice, it was also the freedom to speak speak how you want. It was more when I remembered when I was in school and I was talking to these teachers. I'm like, when I was in school, I remember we were corrected a lot of the time based on how we were speaking and how we were writing. So how do you deal with that? Like what happens when you have a student who is just struggling with, I don't know how to spell the words have to, because in my mind it's have to, like that's something like that. I feel like I'm rambling now, but the thing is, it was a matter of encouraging students to be able to translate back and forth between their dialect and standard English that is being taught. It's not you're wrong, what you're saying is inferior. It's more awesome. You can say it like this. Now, how do we say it for the test? You say it like this at home. How do we say it for the test? And when you're able to toggle back and forth like that, it's almost like the students are bilingual, And so encouraging the students, telling them you're smart. I know you know this. So let's work on translating versus trying to drill whatever is in your head out of it and put this new stuff back in. You know what I'm saying? I guess my favorite moment actually was more when the teacher I was working with showed me a flip book that she and her class had been making. They were learning about animals, and so with each letter of the alphabet, a student would have an animal that began with that letter of the alphabet, and they would have a little drawing, and they would write a few facts about that animal, sort of thing, because this was the persuasion, information, entertainment unit, and so they were learning how to write in a way that informs their reader. Because like by third grade, kids know how to read, and so the test is really testing them on their ability to comprehend what they're reading and their ability to make inferences and stuff like that. So that it gets tougher. And so I feel like after having a conversation with a strictly third grade teacher who deals with this every day, it became very clear how her environment that she had with her other teachers, everybody was really collaborative and willing to help each other out, and everybody was willing to talk about the text with their students and just have them be creative, have them talk with each other, talk about, oh, I have a guinea pig at home, and that's very relevant to this guinea pig story that we're reading, that sort of thing. Whatever is going on in these students' lives, it's to be encouraged versus discouraged, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And so that was
these are strategies that other schools, do you think these are strategies that other schools, both schools with like similar type of student body, but also ones like that have like very different student bodies, do you think these are strategies they can emulate?
Absolutely. Because I mean, not just in Richland 1, but I mean, you have, if you just, for me, it was if you can just put yourself in the shoes of a student, like it wasn't like, I try to tell these people, like, it wasn't that long ago that you were in school. Like I know we tend to feel old a lot of the time, but like we're not, like we were in school not that long ago. And so put yourself in these kids' shoes. If you are talking a certain way, if you are reading things that are interesting to you, how it's more like it's just, I don't know, how do you make it so your teacher understands that you're not trying, it's just, I have what I'm into, and so how can we work that into whatever this curriculum is? I think it's just, it takes some creativity, but these teachers at Carver Lyon have shown me that it's actually very, very doable. And I mean, there were challenges that they faced in the pandemic. Like I remember they were delivering some materials to students' houses, and that's not something I can go out and just say, yeah, you got to do this. It's just something that, I mean, I don't know. when it comes to literature and the text, and giving students the freedom to use their own dialects and their own language, and telling them that it's not inferior to the standard English, but actually just a different way of using standard English. That can really go a long way, because it instead of confusing the student, you now have just given them the tools to essentially translate something. So I think it's I think it's something that it's not going to be able to. I mean, other schools aren't going to be able to maybe do this right away, but I mean, it's something that I feel we could do across the board, or at least try to.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you feel like I should be asking you about your experience that I'm not asking right now?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like I read a lot just then. So, yeah, it just it would have been great if I was able to like go to recess or something and just like talk with the kids, and maybe sit down and try to read a book with one of them or something like that. But I think the challenge was as big for the teachers as it was for the students when it comes to bringing up test scores. And so being able to talk with them and understand the struggles that they were able to overcome, that was really cool.
How about this? What was your favorite book when you were the kid's age?
So when I was in 3rd grade,
It could be like between 2nd to 5th grade. If you don't specifically remember your favorite book on 3rd grade, mine was probably about horses. So.
Yeah. So when I was in 3rd grade, I was really into the Magic Tree House books.
Oh, okay.
Those were good books.
I probably started in like kindergarten or 1st grade. So by the time I was in 3rd grade, I was on like I was in like the 30s or 40s of them, so where they start getting a little bit thicker, and less, not as easy to read, of course. My girlfriend and I have joked about like wanting to kind of like rewrite those stories in like a kind of dark, like Netflixy way.
like Black Mirror Magic Tree House edition.
Yeah, like everything gets remade into something different for Netflix now, and so like we want to do that for Magic Tree House. I feel like that'd be so awesome. But and by the time I was in high school, my favorite book was actually Lord of the Flies.
Okay. So.
Any story that's about boys being friends is there's a lot that can happen there. I feel like we don't tell stories like that a lot, and so I felt like Lord of the Flies was just something that as a 17-year-old boy I was able to kind of relate to a little bit, which is a scary thought, but you know what I mean?
Well, at least you're on a panel with all women.
Yeah. right.
So I'll briefly discuss my piece right before we have to go. So basically, we had a data journalist assist us, and we found out that Williamsburg County School District in the PD region in South Carolina, it's more of a rural area, actually was able to, in almost all of its schools, all of its schools, it increased its teacher retention rate. But like many of them, they were like, several of its schools were like top 10 in the state for increasing its teacher retention rate, like by a shocking amount. And it was able to do this as, many teachers are leaving their professions, like both in South Carolina and across the nation. So I thought, interesting little data fact. Guess I'll go call up this school district. And I interviewed a bunch of people in their district office. I interviewed a bunch of principals, and what one of the principals was telling me is that they've actually leaned heavily on these alternative certification programs to get teachers into schools. And alternative certification programs have somewhat of a negative connotation, because it's essentially saying like, oh, you do this instead of getting like a college degree in education. But what they actually mean, like under South Carolina standards, is it's for people who already have a college degree in a related subject to one they teach, like English, if you want to be an English teacher or something. And then you do field experience in like the programs as you work for 2 years to get this sort of post-bac certificate to be a certified teacher. And what Williamsburg was doing in particular is it's like, okay, well, we don't want just any like randoms coming into our schools with like these degrees. What we're going to do is target people like who already live here and who are already interested in schools, whether they be like people who are subbing on some days, or like parents who are coming into the school all the time, or like community people who are involved in the schools that might be considering another career path. So we decided to tell the story of one such woman who did this. She was a substitute teacher, and then they convinced her to go through this teacher certification program, which she stuck with during the pandemic, and recently got her certification and is now a full-time teacher at the school. And the district said that, you know, because they had so much like love for the district already, they already lived in the area, they were connected to the students, that made them want to stay, rather than people who like might be more like transient, like moving to this district and hopping to another one that might have better pay or be closer to, I don't know, a cooler mall. I'm not sure, restaurants. All right, perfect. Great. So if we don't have any questions from our audience, I think we're going to wrap this up, but please email all of us if you have questions about our stories or bright spots in general, even if you're listening to a recording of this. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.